It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts, Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome back to another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I am Zachary Smith. That is not Aaron Rodgers jamming out to our intro. That is Alan Saunders, although I did love the tweet. Alan, how are we doing?
Doing great. I do that. Not every time, but frequently.
Mm-hmm. Well, so I can see it on my screen. Like it shows us at the bottom, even when we're not on the screen for the people to see. And yeah, typically like I'm just going with my head and you're playing the air guitar, and it's exactly what you would picture is happening behind the screen as well. It's so good. And I love that, now honestly, I got to pass this along. We got to have Aaron actually listen to this and see what he thinks, and maybe we can get him to recreate that same picture that Ed Thompson got today. Great photo, of course, taken by Ed Thompson. A lot of great photos. I was going through the media library from today, the scrap and everything that happened. I don't know why we just changed on the screen here, but I was going through the photos from today. There's a couple scraps that happened and stuff like that, and I was curious as to
trying to put up a picture of Aaron air guitaring.
There it is. And then there's another one I saw. Tyler Hernley replied to you and said if we can get some lyrics to the song, I can be singing it, and you could tell like Aaron's mouth and some lyrics or something like that along with it. So good stuff. Got to make sure that Aaron at some point does hear that intro. But Alan, I mentioned that there was a pretty spirited practice, about as much as it could be for one that did not include pads. And I saw even some people talked about them not being in pads, but if they would have been in that. So what is I guess I put out some false information replying to somebody and then needed clarification on it. So they can have 3 straight days in pads, but not more than 3, and you also can't have more than 3 within a given week. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I thought they couldn't even do 3 in a row. So
they can't do 3 in a row.
I was off on that. Okay.
But yeah, so they can't. So basically, they had to pick between today or Saturday for pads. And Mike Tomlin has,
it was a short day,
in the last couple of years, really settled on enjoying the idea of letting these guys go have fun on Friday Night Lights and like hit and run around and get very tired and then drag them back into practice the next day and have a rather demanding, punishing practice again. So like he wants that. He knows the guys are going to go all out on Friday because they got the crowd, they're amped up, they got energy. And then he wants to make sure they can bring it on Saturday. So my guess is we'll see pads Friday, Saturday, and then a non-padded practice again Sunday. Yeah, that's why I did not think they would do pads today, and we're not scheduled to do. The only sort of pause in that was because Tuesday didn't happen. Maybe he could have rearranged the whole schedule, but just decided not to.
Yeah. But pretty spirited for a day that did not include pads. If you were keeping up along, I always do. I think it's just funny. Like, you obviously, along with everybody else that's boots on the ground, just live tweeting training camp practices and how amped up the fans will get. Like, it's one of my favorite. It's what makes this time of year so fun, is watching everybody kind of, form opinions and stuff at this time of year, just based off, 7 shots, bash on backers, all the drills that we love talking about. But no pads today, but still a very spirited practice. Before we get into some comments and questions from the YouTube, as we like to do and stuff like that, just kind of wanted to go through again today's day, what stood out to you, on a positive or negative side, kind of going through today's practice.
Yeah, I feel like today, I can't confirm this.
Okay.
It's not factual, but just based on the way practice went, I feel like Mike Tomlin just went through the DB's rooms at about 4:45 this morning, beating on a trash can to get them going. We've seen them do this different ways before, and I wasn't talking to Tomlin today, and he didn't. I would have asked him about it, but he didn't. He wasn't asked about it, but something got those DBs going. Let me just say that. In a day where you're not going to have pads, the practice is early in the morning. There's a natural tendency for there to be a lull in energy. Somebody got them boys in gold fired up today because they were on one from the very beginning. There was about 6 or 7 times that guys had to be separated from one another. There was all kinds of crap talk from the whole group. They definitely brought the energy. mostly in a positive way. And I think, man, that's exactly what the team needed for a practice day like today.
Well, I mean, okay, so you're more equipped to speak to this, I guess, than I would be, but I just feel like the DB group in general is a group that is going to have no problems rising to that occasion in that regard. Anyway, like I don't know that they need somebody beating down their door at 4 a.m. to tell them this. I think they would have just shown up and done that anyway.
It was a different level today than it has been the whole rest of training camp.
Mm-hmm.
And Juan Thornhill and Jalen Ramsey and Chuck Clark. Really, I feel
Clark.
Yeah. Those guys were really
just immediately gets here and he's just like, "Yep, I'm just going to dive right in."
Yeah. I think they understood the assignment, and it was a good day because of it. We had a whole bunch of skirmishes, but there was great competition too. Like, so we'll start with Jonnu Smith and Juan Thornhill are going against one another in a wide receiver DB one-on-one drill. Mm-hmm. Jonnu, I don't know what had been said between the two before this, but clearly something, right? There was some level of trash talk going on before this. Jonnu Smith made a very nice catch, probably the nicest catch I've seen him make, like jumping, diving, grab over the middle. He got up first, spiked the ball on Juan Thornhill. Thornhill got up, pushed him. Huge scrum gathers with Jalen Ramsey somehow being the guy keeping the peace, which is an interesting.
Like, hey, if I'm not involved in the fight, no one's fighting.
Right. And then like give the Steelers coaches all the credit in the world because like 5 reps later, Smith and Thornhill were going again, and like Thornhill just tackled him. Like it wasn't even like a rep. He just grabbed him, held on, tackled him. Then there was more trash talk. Then they were at each other again. And it's like, man, that's the competition that you really want.
I wonder if they were fighting to decide which one was DB's least favorite acquisition. Maybe they can bond over that.
Little do they know.
That's how you,
do they know? Clark got into it with DK Metcalf. There was just all kinds. It was all over. It was definitely a fiery competition, and we don't get those. The other part of that is like they did one-on-ones yesterday. They did them again today. They don't do them every day, right? They're going to do them again tomorrow, though. So like setting the stage for some fireworks at Friday Night Lights there as well.
And do you typically see it be like, will they just run the same matchups typically? I say we talked a lot about Peyton Wilson and Kenny Gainwell in the backs on backers, and I was just wondering if that was kind of like in all the drills.
They went again today in in the receiving drills. The one thing I will say is like sometimes they'll move a guy up or out or off. So like, try to think of if TJ Watt went out there and like just was dominating Calvin Anderson or something, well, then maybe they'd just take him off and say, okay, never mind, none for you. We've seen that with Cam. Cam will get 1 rep and then they'll be like, no, you're too good. Like nobody can block you. And the other way, say you give a young guy an assignment and he does well, then maybe you want to humble him a little bit, right? Then you want to move him up and say, like when Jalen Warren was younger, he came in and just, I can't remember who it was. It was some, back of the roster linebacker because he was an undrafted free agent, and he just roughed somebody up. And then it was like, oh, okay, this guy's really good. All right, never mind. Now you're going to get, now you're going to get someone farther up the depth chart. So they'll move things around, but a lot of times the players will say who they want. They'll call guys out too, but it's fun, man. It's fun competition. I think the Jalen Ramsey is so good in those. Like, I don't think anybody got him. He got Calvin badly, like ran the route for him and was talking so much trash. But it was like it was pretty fair both ways. I think like there was not like some, I think you look at the secondary and you look at these receivers and you say one of these sides of the ball has a lot more talent than the other. I'm not sure it really played out that way.
Okay. Well, I guess we can dive more into that. Although the one thing I wanted to bring up and kind of get your perspective on is still involving the defense, just because I understand. I think the addition of Jalen Ramsey has kind of taken maybe some of the spotlight away from this. But especially in the 7 shots, I saw Darius Slay had a couple breakups in 7 shots, and I feel like we've kind of like not saying you or I, but like just as a whole within the Steelers fan base and in media space has kind of not talked about Darius Slay all that much, or he's kind of flown under the radar a little bit. Again, still very early in camp here, but just wanted to get your perspective on what you've seen from him. Today was the first day where, well, actually going back to yesterday and the day where Aaron Rodgers made a really nice throw that we said nobody could cover. Those are both on Darius Slay, but today, a couple pass breakups and 7 shots. Just kind of wanted to get like an update on how you felt about his start to camp.
Yeah, I think Slay's been awesome. Yeah, 2 pass breakups today and 7 shots. I had him getting the better of DK Metcalf in those one-on-one drills, which is very difficult. There's still going to be times where Metcalf is just too big, too strong, and there's nothing that Slay or basically anybody else can do about it. But I think he's looked really good, very consistent. Doesn't like you don't see him bust coverages. You don't see him in the wrong spot. For a guy who hasn't spent very much time in this defense, he seems to have it really well dialed in. He looks like one of the better starting outside corners the Steelers have had in a while. And when you combine that with what's around him, it starts to look pretty darn impressive. But yeah, Slay's been a big part of that. Like, I agree. I don't think he's been talked about enough. And then, I think Joey Porter has been an interesting set an interesting arc. We talked about his tackling a little bit yesterday and coming up with more physicality. And then like today, he gave up probably the best catch of training camp to Roman Wilson. Right. Maybe one of the better training camp catches I can remember, like sort of like AB. Pickens made a bunch of crazy ones too. That's true. But like, man, and it's funny because like Porter's like the only guy who, like if there's a mistake from the corners, it's going to be him just because the other 2 guys are just so clean. And it's not like he's been bad. But Roman Wilson, the entire lead of my practice report, training camp takeaways at SteelersNow.com, please go read the articles so I can get paid, is just about this catch because it's the whole story of like Roman Wilson needs to contribute, has not contributed, wasn't healthy, is now healthy, and still hasn't been a head turner, hasn't been a guy that we've talked a lot about here on this show through a week of training camp. And he made
that's why.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You talk about a guy that needs to make plays like that in training camp. It's certainly him, but that's why, I said my ears perked up in a negative way a couple days ago when talking about Roman, and you were just saying how like, yeah, he needs to contribute in the return game if possible, just like get him on the field because he's not going to contribute much on offense the way it's looking right now. And I'm like, oh, geez, like, if they're not finding ways to get him on the field on offense, and I understand, how tight and heavy it's going to be, and if he's, third in the pecking order behind the DK Metcalf and Calvin Austin, how it could be tough for him. But man, like he's got to show something, like whether it's he's going to have to prove to this organization that they don't need to make as much of an investment in wide receiver, whether it's right now, somebody being added, or, spending an early pick on it or whatever in the draft next year, whatever it might be. Like he would be the reason that they changed course there for one reason or another. So yeah, he needs more moments like the one he had today.
Yeah, it was an incredible catch. He beat Joey on a double move. Ball from Mason Rudolph kind of hung up. It was a little windy today. And Porter, closed the gap and frankly was in really good position to make an interception. And in the air, Wilson fought back through Porter to make the catch. Definitely the best catch I've ever seen him make. Crazy highlight. And I think really, really, really good for Roman Wilson to kind of remind everyone that he is capable of doing things like that, because I just don't think we've seen it enough in a Steelers uniform.
Sure. Absolutely. Real quick, there is a question that we can answer. We're talking about like the one-on-ones and stuff like that. GC23 mentioned that he was hoping that he would get some video of the backs on backers within here. I think it's something we've talked about before, just in terms of like the videoing was able to be put out there and stuff like that, but maybe haven't addressed it this year. So if you wanted to maybe touch on that.
Yeah, the Steelers do not permit us to take video of any team or any offense versus defense. So wide receiver, DB, one-on-ones, backs on backers, anything that involves the offense and the defense competing, whether it's one-on-one, 7-on-7, 11-on-11, we can't take video of it and we can't put it out there. So you will not see that from us. You won't see that from any other media outlet. And honestly, I didn't even see very much of it from the stands today. They're really trying to not let that stuff get out. They want to keep the practices open to the public so that people can come watch, but they do not want their rivals watching those plays on tape. They're trying to put new stuff in. We're going to talk a little bit later about some of the stuff they put in today that was interesting, and we can talk about it, but they don't want to show it to people. So I would immediately lose my job if you had video of backs on backers or wide receiver DB one-on-ones or things of that nature. So
yeah,
sorry
I don't know
but that's not our call.
Yeah, I don't think we want to take that trade off, showing a clip one time to have you not be at practice anymore. So sorry. But we talk about it on here. You get some sights and sounds and stuff like that. You're still getting your fix, and hopefully at some point, if you haven't already, get the opportunity to go out there and see it yourself. But you mentioned within there we can talk about stuff that happened. Were there any, yesterday we talked about like standouts and that stuff. Again, full context, no pads today, but was wondering like if you had to take some guys away from today's practice. I know I saw a lot of people saying like this was clearly Aaron Rodgers' best day, stuff like that. Who would you have kind of put into that bucket?
I thought Aaron Rodgers has been good. I think the narrative that he's been not good has been weird and wrong, but he was very good today. There was a throw on a slant to DK Metcalf that I put a huge star next to in my book. It was a really tight window, and we've seen the tight window too, but he just reached back and unloaded. And it was a laser beam. Like, the guy's arm is still fantastic. I know he's not the same as he was before, and his ability to be a mobile quarterback and move around the pocket and extend plays definitely going to be significantly depleted from his prime days in Green Bay. But the dude can freaking throw. Like, he hammered that one. Even like late career Ben wasn't making throws like that. It's really been fun to see. And yeah, I mean,
just to that point, when Pat was on around the 412, when before he had gone to the Malibu trip and stuff like that, I was just asking him, what he sees, what he expects to see and stuff, and he just was saying how different. Like, that's the word that he kept using in terms of the way that the release is, the way that the ball comes out of his hands, stuff like that. Today he replied to his own text to me and just said, "Yeah, different." So like, there's just something about the way that he throws. And everybody talks about the release and everything like that. So his cadence is one of one. So yeah, there's still a lot of things that he does at like an elite level, despite the physical limitations that he now has at this age. But that's certainly one of them. Like, that arm is still there. So I'm excited to see it in person.
It's definitely impressive. And I was talking to a coach today who told me that, an offensive coach who told me that he's learning things from Aaron Rodgers, that there's stuff that Rodgers is pointing out about their offense that he's over there like the Mark Cuban, little,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we should be doing that. You're right. And I like, Ben was a great player, and it's not like Ben was like an idiot, but he was never that kind of,
he wasn't like a student of the game,
X's and O's savant, right? Like the way that Rodgers
kind of made it more impressive, the career that he was able to have, despite sometimes people do it different ways. And yeah, for him, that was never the thing, which is why, I don't want to go off on a tangent here. Everybody that talks about like how good of a coach he would be, a quarterback coach, like, you can't teach the way that Ben played the position.
Yeah. I think some guys just do it. And I'm not saying that Ben couldn't be a good coach, because he probably could be, but like I just don't. Just because he was good doesn't mean he would be a good coach. Like it's a different thing to teach it than to do it. And the first very specifically the way he did it, I think makes that a harder transition. Not to say that he couldn't do it, but like it's a lot easier to watch. Okay, Jerry Olszewski was a linebacker with like smarts talent, right? Like he got by on knowing what to do, where to go. Like it's a very natural transition for a guy like that to go into coaching.
I mean, that's look at
something like Ben, very different, because like it's just all talent.
Look at the amount of backup quarterbacks that are really the ones that take the jobs in coaching, as opposed to the star players at the position. But yeah, anyways, something you said within there a few minutes ago when we were talking about, drills taking place and what can and can't be shown, was you can obviously talk on here about things that are being implemented, schematically or whatever. I was kind of curious as to where you wanted to go with that avenue.
Arthur Smith is a freaking madman.
Okay. All right. I like the way that this is starting.
They've run in the past. They did it last year, at least a little bit. Some 14 personnel, meaning one running back, 4 tight ends on the field.
Yeah.
And then they ran something I've literally never seen before today. 4 personnel.
You're right.
No running backs. 1 wide receiver, 4 tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
And then ran the ball.
Jonnu, correct? Yeah.
It's just insane.
Yeah. And I guess the thing for me that I would say about that, in terms of like, we talked about things that you see in training camp and then like wondering if it's going to carry over to the regular season and stuff like that. But like last year, they obviously had the limitations that they did because of the quarterback and stuff like that. But that wouldn't have really impacted this. What's the reason that you think that we didn't see this last year at all in training camp?
Well, they just weren't as deep at tight end, I think. Like this is adding Jonnu Smith to that room is significant, and it's going to make them, like they're going to play a lot. 12 personnel might be their base, might be their most used offense, and I think like 13 will be no worse than third and maybe second. Like they're going to play a ton of tight ends, and so I think once you look at the personnel and you say, okay, we're going to play a ton of tight ends. Probably have 4 guys active on game days because of how much you're going to play tight ends. Then you try to come up with some different stuff you can do with them. And you look at the skill sets of them. It's like it's no big deal to line up Jonnu Smith or Connor Hayward in the backfield or at wide receiver or anywhere else. A lot of people were saying, like, when the Steelers acquired Jonnu Smith, like, he's going to line up at wide receiver. I'm like, well, sort of. Like, they all line up at wide receiver. There's plenty of plays where Darnell Washington is flexed out with like Calvin Austin next to him, just cause. And you had DK Metcalf into the mix too. And it's like, that's another big body that like, I think it really forces defenses to declare their intentions. And then when you add that to a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, Aaron was talking yesterday about how like, one of his big responsibilities in this offense that is going to be a run heavy offense is going to be to decide not to run, to look at the defensive alignment and say, okay, they've got too many guys in the box. They are looking for us to run. We got to find out something else. And he's also said yesterday that he just maybe the first day just wants to see what happens when he gives the ball to Jalen Warren anyway. But like having a guy like Aaron Rodgers that is so smart and so good at this, being the one that's like, I think it just feels like it would work at a different level than say, oh, we have Kenny Pickett, but you're making the defense declare their intentions. Like, well, is that going to be the guy that's really going to take advantage of that? He didn't have the experience or is Russell Wilson going to be able to, he had the experience, but he didn't have the ability to throw the ball to all fields to specifically attack a weakness the way that Aaron Rodgers does. And I just think man, I think it's going to work. I think their offense is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be super explosive, but I think it's going to be hard to get off the field.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. I wanted to ask just in regards to the amount of tight ends and stuff like that. I think that you were somebody, at least going back to your original roster projection, felt like Connor Hayward was going to be on the roster anyway. But when you see stuff like this, okay, that might answer my question. I was just saying, when you see stuff like this, fully acknowledging that it's relatively early in the camp process here, does it change your math at all? Like if you felt like he wasn't, or if he had to, secure a job via special teams, but then you see, oh, wait, if they want to do stuff like this, then he's going to have to be on the roster. Does it change your math at all?
Yeah,
but
makes me want to find a way to put a fifth one on the roster. Like,
okay,
makes me look at JJ Galbraith and say, could he find a way in there, or maybe DJ Thomas Jones can get healthy again? Like, I think Connor Hayward is a 100%er.
Yeah, that 7 or 8 year old from that was at Pat's camp and asked him about it. I don't know how he's gonna feel when that drops, but I see. I that's the thing is I don't know if that kid was like upset. He was like, "How do you still have a job?" to Connor. I don't know if it was supposed to be like genuinely curious. As you talked about a 7 or 8 year old, I think so. Like again, I don't think there was necessarily harm to it, but I'd be curious to what his reaction is. Anyway, okay, moving along here, I do want to get to at least a couple questions here. One from our guy Bother. Again, if you guys bring up names in the comments, we're going to try to talk about them, especially if they're ones that we haven't brought up a ton in the past. We have mentioned Rock Taylor. However, Bother asked about Brandon Johnson, said he's been hearing his name a lot through the first few practices when you talk about depth receivers. Do you think that there's some consideration that he could make this roster?
Scored touchdown 7 shots today over Brandon Eccles on a nice catch. He also had a drop at some point that I noted that I did not like. I would say he's been quiet in terms of volume. I haven't seen him get a lot of targets. But he's been pretty productive when the ball does go his way. It was from Rodgers, deep middle.
So he's been Jericho Cotchery in training camp so far.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say I've seen anything that makes me think he's going to make the team. But I don't think he's a bad option if they get into injury trouble, especially at outside receiver, and they need to call on him. Like, right now at outside receiver, they have DK Metcalf for sure, Robert Woods, maybe Ben Skoranek, but with like the limitations of how much can you use Ben Skoranek. Like, if there's an injury there, I think, especially if the injury is to Metcalf, but even if it's to Woods, like I think you very easily take a good look at Brandon Johnson and say, okay, well, you can put him in there.
Another one that I definitely wanted to get to today. Again, we're going to eventually get to all these, especially because somebody mentioned we haven't talked a lot about Derek Harmon. That might be true in terms of yesterday's episode. Go back and watch what was it last Friday's, where we talked about him potentially being the next great Steelers defensive lineman and being a star in the making. Go back and watch that one if you want to hear a lot about Derek Harmon, but we'll talk about him more obviously as we go through here. But the one I definitely wanted to get to here from Cold It's Art. He said, try to be more positive and less angry pessimism try more positive and less angry pessimism from Z would be more fun. I can't count the times I almost unsubscribed. I wanted to, I don't know where this is coming from in terms of the pessimism. I don't know what was it. One of the times that I said I didn't view this team as a true Super Bowl contender right now. I'm not sure. I don't know where I might have come off as pessimistic about this football team. I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think that there's a chance that they could win a playoff game. I feel like I'm more optimistic about this season than a lot of people. So I don't know where the pessimism is coming from, unless you're just talking about literally me feeling like they can't win the entire thing. I don't know. I don't know what Broderick, maybe? Was it about Broderick?
Will Howard.
Oh, well, okay. If we're talking about, yeah, I mean, I guess it could be if this person believes that Will Howard is going to be the franchise quarterback for the Steelers. But even then, why am I getting called out as the guy here for the pessimism if that's the case?
Yeah, usually it's me.
Why am I getting singled out?
I feel like if there's a pessimistic half of this podcast. It ain't Smitty. Like,
and when DB's on here, I mean, what are we doing? So
yeah.
I don't know
what
specifically from yesterday's episode, if there was one topic this could have been singled out about. But hey, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I hope you don't unsubscribe just because of maybe me having a moment of pessimism, whatever it was, or came across as pessimism. But we appreciate the comment. And if you can, if you're watching this episode, didn't unsubscribe, let me know what it was specifically that you're talking about, because I'm curious. But yeah, I don't know if there's another one that we could get in here quick. Oh, I guess real quick from Matt Nerdy here. Was wondering, he said everybody has an opinion on Rodgers being on Pat McAfee's show, and just like, do we feel like it's any different from like Cam has his own podcast and stuff like that? We've seen kind of people get into the content space in their playing days. So that's a good point. What do you make of the fact that Aaron I don't even know what's going to happen. That was a conversation on Pat McAfee's show. They kept like trying to ask like, hey, you come on here on Tuesdays, and they would look over to Bert and like nothing was said after. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but just let's assume that it would be a thing. What is your thought on it?
It's hard to answer because I don't really know what it's going to look like. I doubt it's going to be an issue. Like Ben had a radio show the whole time he was the Steelers starting quarterback, and he used to break news on that radio show all the time, by the way. And lots of Steelers players have that. Antonio Brown had a radio show, which is unhinged, like, to think about. Like, they put that guy, they were like, yeah, sure, this guy can go on the radio every week and represent the franchise. Like, okay. But like, I don't, what's the difference between a Landon Roberts being on the Fan and Aaron Rodgers on Pat McAfee, other than just levels of,
it's a larger platform.
It's a bigger platform, but like,
right.
And frankly, doesn't the team want the bigger platform? I mean, the Steelers don't need to beg for fandom or for tickets or, anything like that. But like, I don't really see whether the negatives will come from in terms of having your quarterback on a national talk show every week. And like, let's be real honest here. And this is not really a dig at Pat, but it's not like that's a hard-hitting show where like tough questions are asked. Like, that's not what it's all about. It's not the point.
Yeah.
It's not like he's going on outside the lines. Okay, like where it'll be a little different, right? RIP outside the lines. But like,
if we get a one-on-one with Pablo Torre with the work he's been doing recently.
Yeah, right. Okay, like maybe then you'd be a little concerned. I highly doubt that Pat McAfee is going to make Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers look bad on a weekly basis. Like I just
that's what I was going to say is
of the show.
People worried about what he is going to say on there, I guess. I mean, he obviously speaks very openly and doesn't hold back his thoughts on anything. And he's a unique dude that has his own opinions on things and never shies away from it. So yeah, I guess if the people that would feel some type of way about it, I think it'd be just because of them being afraid of what he is going to say on there. And I don't know, like, it's not going to affect the Steelers' image, I don't think, regardless. So I could care less whether he does or doesn't do it, but based off the body language and stuff, like I said, going back to yesterday when they were looking, I don't know that's going to be a thing, but we'll see. All right, Alan, good stuff. We will get out of here, and I will be with you tomorrow. We'll see how this podcast is formatted out and everything like that, but we will both be in attendance for Friday Night Lights practice. If you are there, let us know. Would love to see a bunch of you and stuff like that. So let us know. But Alan, until tomorrow, tell the people that you find you.
Hey, Saunders _PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers now. I've been posting on Instagram more since I've been at training camp. I'm trying
postcards.
I'm trying to make that more of a thing. So Saunders _PGH, go check it out. The St. Vincent campus is extraordinarily photogenic. So it's very easy when I'm here to find things to take pictures of on a daily basis. I'm not sure if I'll be able to continue that throughout the entire season, but I'm going to give it a go. We're going to give it a shot. We're going to see if we can get the Instagram profile going a little bit. I'm still working on TikTok. It's not my thing. I got to figure out a way to be better at that. But like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. That's free and easy. And we are at a basically impossible number here.
Yeah,
we are at 16,200, and there is only one answer, and it's Gary Anderson, 2001. The Steelers have not given number one out since Gary Anderson retired. It's not retired for him. They just decided they don't want to give out number one anymore. As far as I know, he may be the only one to ever wear it.
I think so. Because don't they consider it like, I mean, I don't know if this is like an official thing or anything like that. Isn't it considered like the Chiefs number? Like they don't issue it?
It was after Dan Rooney died, I think, that they stopped giving it out.
But that by the way, especially if you're watching, that might have looked disrespectful the way that I was doing that. But like I was just trying to, like, I don't know. That's why I was legitimately asking if that was the reason that they don't issue it.
Yeah. It was something about, I think it was after Dan Rooney died that they like sort of, and again, they're not giving numbers out thing is never formal. So it's not like you get like an on the record quote from the organization about these things. It's just, we don't want to do that. But yeah, they have not given out one in quite some time. Pro Football Reference says that David Trout wore number one in 1981. I have no idea if that's correct or not, but that would be right before Gary Anderson was on the team. So that would fit. And then you had a couple guys in the 30s and 40s that, I mean, the uniform numbers back then were, he was 15. No, he lost his 5. Now he's number 1. That was about as official as it was.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, get us a bunch more subscribers so we don't ever have to do that again with the number one.
But not exactly 100 because we, just.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, true. So don't do that either. But be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Hit us in the comments, your thoughts, anything we talked about today. Question for a future episode. Again, we got some more stuff that we want to get to that came from the comments. We will do so as we work through the rest of training camp here. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure to leave us a 5-star review and subscribe over there. And you can drop a question or comment in that review as well. So be sure to do that. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok. You can find me everywhere. Zachary Smith, PGH for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in and taking another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.